As sojourners, when we travel, everything we do connects back to bringing glory to God.
Lord, make me a servant, make me like you. You were a servant, make me one too.
We work hard, but we have a lot of fun in doing it.
National Evangelism with Sojourners was established to work with churches of Christ in order to strengthen the church by encouraging, teaching, and evangelizing. Sojourners are a group of mostly retired Christians who travel all over the nation in their recreational vehicles and serve the Lord. Besides serving churches, they also go to disaster areas to help rebuild damaged church property, and even go to Christian colleges, children's homes, and youth camps. Sojourners devote their lives to volunteer in ways like door knocking, visitation, seminars, and Bible studies, and physical labor like remodeling, plumbing, cleaning, and landscaping. All sojourners are self-supporting. They do not solicit, nor do they accept support from any church they visit. Visit sojourning.org to learn more.
Hello, Frank Bradford from the Churches of Christ Disaster Response Team. 2020 has been a very tough year. We have had a record number of storms, many of those hitting the Gulf Coast. What does DRT do? Well, we work with the Churches of Christ. We're based in Dayton, Ohio, sponsored by the church in that area. We reach out to area churches in a community where a disaster strikes. As we talk to churches, they have individuals, the hands and feet of Jesus. DRT is very unique because we go to an area and stay. We are the first ones in and the last ones out. We do first finding a church location. And according to Galatians 6, we are to do good to those, especially the household of faith. DRT wants your support. You can go to our website, churchesofchristdrt.org. When a disaster arrives and you see it either on our website or on our Facebook page, that's when you need to sign up. There is a volunteer form that is on our website. You must fill that out before you come. I would like to come and talk to your congregation.
Good morning. I'd like to introduce Chris McCurley. He is the preaching minister of the Autumn Lane Church of Christ in Abilene, Texas. He works closely with the Ripple of Light Ministry and is currently hosting a weekly podcast entitled Dear Church. He and his wife Libby have 3 wonderful children, Keely, Zoe, and Zane. We want to welcome Chris as he speaks to us in a message about preaching the Word in every way, especially using technology. Let's join together and welcome him. Chris, come preach the Word.
Picture this scenario. Jesus makes his way through the busy marketplace. All of a sudden, he reaches under his robe and he pulls out his iPhone 6S and he snaps a picture of all the people. Hashtag the harvest is plentiful. Then Jesus signs on to his Twitter account and he posts where he'll be speaking next. A Pharisee leaves a comment, heretic. Jesus replies, come and see. As numerous people gather on the hillside to hear Jesus speak, Peter shows some of them a video that he took on his phone of Jesus driving out a demon. Andrew says, man, you got to put that on YouTube. It'll go viral. You ever considered how Jesus would respond to social media? How would the Son of God utilize platforms like Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram? Would he Snapchat with his disciples? Would he upload his sermons to YouTube? Now, maybe all this sounds crazy, but I believe if Jesus were to have come to earth in this day and time rather than some 2,000 years ago, he would have used any and every method possible to broadcast the message. Jesus valued going to places where large numbers of people were gathered. And in our day and age, there is no larger gathering of people from all walks of life than social media. It's the modern day marketplace. People of all different races and backgrounds and ethnicities and cultures find a connection on social media. Lives are shared, relationships are fostered, news is broken, and unfortunately, Worldliness and immorality are rampant. And because of this, some Christians would say that we have no business being on social media, that we need to avoid the internet altogether. I totally disagree. While you can choose that course of action if you prefer, I feel strongly that Christians need to be a presence where so many people are gathered. You know, it's been said that 4 million people search God every day on the internet. 73% of Americans have a social network profile. 47% of all internet users are on Facebook. Almost 115 billion minutes are spent each month just on Facebook mobile in the U.S. There are nearly 1.4 billion Facebook users worldwide, and that number is changing constantly. In fact, all of these numbers are probably obsolete in just the time that I have spoken here. If Facebook were a country, it would be the third largest in the world, right behind China and India. As Christians, we are called to go into all the world. We will never find a corner of the world that is 100% positive and perfect. That's called heaven, and we're not there yet. As followers of Jesus, we can't afford to run away from the negativity or shut off from the world. The world will always be the world. We must always be Christ-like. I seriously doubt of the billions of Facebook users worldwide, I doubt that all of them are Christians. This means that we have an enormous opportunity to speak to the masses just like Jesus did. We may be the only light that this dark world of social media ever sees. Social media is not satanic. Like anything else, you can find the bad, and unfortunately, Christians can even be the culprit. Far too many of God's children are using Facebook and social media in a way that doesn't glorify God and sheds a negative light on the church. We need to be engaged in social media, I believe, but for the right reasons and for the right purpose. We cannot log out of our Christianity when we log on to our computer. You know, I have close to 5,000 friends on Facebook, and I don't throw that number out to try to impress you because it's really not all that impressive when you consider that I don't even know over half of them. In fact, I would say that there's only about 10% that I could say I have any sort of relationship with. The rest are acquaintances. Some are people I've never met. Many are people I had never even heard of until they asked to be my friend on Facebook. A great number of these friends are Christians in Africa, India, other parts of the world. They are starving for information. They are dying to share with me their work for the kingdom in their native land. And so I get pictures and questions and sometimes requests for monetary support. These are people who have gone to our website and listened to sermons. Some are preachers looking for sermon ideas. Others are seeking deeper knowledge of the scriptures. They always refer to me as their brother, even though they have never met me. I am their brother. Even though they are a world away, we are linked together by the bond in Christ and Facebook. Isn't it interesting that we most commonly think of Facebook as a tool to connect with long-lost friends, or as a platform to share our political preferences, or a venue for self-glorification? Many in our world, however, are seeking a spiritual family. They're seeking biblical knowledge. They're seeking the church. We have so personalized social media that sometimes we miss out on the global call for evangelism. Many of us debate whether Christians should even be on Facebook, while others all over the world are seeking Christians to be friends with on Facebook. And it is my opinion that Christians should be on Facebook and social media. I'm not saying that you're wrong if you choose not to be, but I don't agree with the sentiment that Christians should just avoid social media altogether because it serves no good purpose. I'll give you an example. My good friend Brandon Edwards tells the story of being in Zhejiang, China, doing mission work. And while there, some Chinese Christians knocked on his door. They asked if he would come and preach to them at their church. Brandon had no idea who they were. They pleaded with him to get in a van and ride with them to their underground church, and he did. He preached to them for many, many hours. They didn't want him to stop. They hungered for the word. They were eager for him to share the scriptures. How did they find Brandon? How did they know that he was even in Zhejiang, China? Well, they saw it on Facebook, which is interesting because Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram are all banned in China. But the Chinese people are rather smart. They use proxy servers to hack their way in and connect with other Christians. And that's how they found Brandon. He had posted on Facebook about his mission trip to Zhejiang, and they showed up to ask him to preach. Social media is meant to connect people. Imagine a world where you could have access to your church family's inner thoughts. Imagine that you were able to connect with each member each day on a personal level. Imagine being able to remember every church member's birthday, anniversary, or special day. Imagine being able to pray instantly for the needs of a family member. Imagine being able to foresee material problems before it's too late. Imagine a world where you could have your pulse on the happenings and feelings of so many of your Christian brothers and sisters. Imagine such a world. We have that world at our disposal through social media. It's a fantastic opportunity for good when used properly, but please listen to me. I read posts from Christians. I see things that Christians display on Facebook and social media, and quite honestly, it can be disappointing at times. We have Christians that do a great disservice to the Lord's church and her mission by the way they present themselves on Facebook or other platforms. I love the Lord and His church. I love you. I want the church where you attend to be a shining light in your community. I want it to change the community. I want us to change the world around us. And how we present ourselves on social media can go a long way to either helping or hurting that mission. So here we go. Let's move forward by asking the question, WWJP, what would Jesus post? If Jesus had access to social media, it is my belief that His presence on Twitter, Facebook, or Instagram, or whatever venue would have only one real purpose: to point people to God. And that should be our purpose as well. Now, don't get me wrong. I don't have a problem with posting pictures of your family or your child's accomplishments. I personally like seeing that from my friends on Facebook. But I believe all Christians should approach social media with a definite purpose, and that purpose should be to point people to God. And we do this by glorifying God ourselves. Would Jesus spend His time demeaning the president or pushing a social agenda or bashing government officials or sharing immodest photos or off-color jokes? Do you think Jesus would share a meme or a video with the line, "Sorry about the language, but this is too good not to share"? I don't think so. It was Jesus who stated, "But I tell you that every careless word that people speak, they shall give an accounting for it in the day of judgment. For by your words you will be justified, and by your words you will be condemned." Every careless word, whether spoken audibly or through a keyboard, we must give an accounting for. Our words, whether spoken out loud or posted on social media, have the potential to justify us or condemn us. So it's not okay to be vulgar online. It's not okay to share vulgarity online. It's not okay to gossip. It's not okay to lie. It's not okay to slander or misrepresent people. All of these things are sinful. And just because we're sitting behind a computer and typing on a keyboard doesn't make it any less severe. Here's what Paul had to say. Conduct yourselves with wisdom toward outsiders, making the most of the opportunity. Let your speech always be with grace as though seasoned with salt, so that you will know how you should respond to each person. These words should be heeded even more closely online. There are people we don't know who might be viewing our speech online. Are our words full of grace? Are our comments seasoned with salt? Am I exhibiting God's love through what I post? You don't get a pass because you're online. The same rules apply. Following Christ is a full-time endeavor. We don't get to drop our cross and act worldly when we get on the computer. Oftentimes I see preachers even posting things online that may be right, but the approach is completely wrong. They call out a brother or sister on an issue, or there's a back and forth exchange, and other Christians chime in with their malicious comments. And I'm thinking to myself, what are all the non-Christians who are observing this thinking? Plus, Matthew 18:15 clearly states that if your brother sins, go and show him his fault in private. It does not say if your brother sins, blast him publicly on social media. Please remember that when you're online, you're also on stage. Unless we send a private message, our online words are available for anyone to see. Hundreds, if not thousands, are privy to what we tweet or post, and this reality should cause us to pause and to think before leaving a comment or posting something. I've said it before that our words are bullets, that once you fire them, you can't get them back. You may feel convicted of wrong after posting something, and you may delete it, but there's no telling how many people have already been affected by it. We have no way to chase down all the people who may have seen the original comment. We have to weigh our words before we type them. Think about what you're saying before you send it. We need to ask ourselves, have I earned the right to address the subject at hand? I mean, there's so much impulsiveness on social media. We read a headline or a comment about a certain subject, especially politics, and we fire off with our fingers. And all too often, people have never even read the original article or sat and thought about what to say before commenting. Sometimes the person responds without having all the information or even having misinformation. Are you an expert in the area that's being discussed? Or are you simply slinging an uninformed opinion? If you're not an expert on the topic, keep scrolling. You know you can do that, right? That's allowed. Believe it or not, we don't have to comment. This is a stewardship issue. Are we making the most of our opportunity when we're on social media? Because God will hold us accountable for how we use this huge platform. You may feel uninhibited or more cavalier because you're behind a computer screen, but God's rules don't change. Are you stewarding your time on social media well? Are you using it for selfish reasons? Are you building your own personal platform, or are you using your platform to point people to God? I think Jesus would engage in social media with a purpose, and we should too. And that purpose should be to point people to God. Secondly, I think I can say with all confidence that Jesus wouldn't post his most intimate moments online. You know, social media is destroying the mystery and privacy of our lives. God created you to enjoy this life, not to capture and share every moment through a camera lens. But so many people spend so much time trying to capture life on camera or in 140 characters that they forfeit an opportunity to live in and enjoy the real world. Something has been lost. We've lost our people skills. We've lost the ability to interact. We've lost our ability to communicate. I don't believe that Jesus would be so attached to his phone that he was detached from life, but many are. I feel like Jesus would tell his disciples to put the phone down. I can imagine him instructing the apostles to leave their iPhones at the door as they prepared to take the Passover. Perhaps he would turn over tables if their ringer went off while he was teaching. You know, I don't think he would be taking pictures of himself as he was washing the disciples' feet. I don't believe he would make the raising of Lazarus a photo op. Some things need to be kept private. We don't have to post everything. We don't have to let the world see every detail about our lives. I'm not saying that we can't share memories and milestones. I love seeing posts about, our church family and their children, my friends, and what's going on in their lives, but we don't have to document every minute detail. So don't use social media as a means for personal glorification. Use it as a means to glorify God. Instead of every post being about you, consider your purpose and your mission. And remember to keep some things private. All of this really goes back to an unhealthy attachment to our phones and being a social media glutton. I realize that, my lesson is supposed to be about using technology in order to reach people, and it is, but I do think it's important to insert here that we can be too engaged, or we can spend too much time on social media that we really don't consider the deeper issue. This is a stewardship issue. We can't be too consumed. We can't panic if we forget our phone or feel as though someone amputated a part of our body if we don't have our phone in our hand. We spend countless hours scrolling through Facebook or Twitter or Instagram, texting or talking, and I believe it's having an adverse effect on us in many ways, but especially spiritually. So put your phone down at times. Get out your Bible, the one that actually has pages that you can turn. Spend more time in prayer. Spend more time looking for opportunities to serve. I see a lot of Christians on Facebook who are obviously passionate about politics, and I think, what if they were that passionate about Jesus and spreading the gospel? Jesus made being with the Father and being about the Father's business his number one priority, and he allowed nothing to distract him from that. His mission was to seek and save the lost, and nothing kept him from carrying out that mission. So let's not let anything hinder us either. Let's keep private things private. Let's put down the phone and let's focus on our faith, our family, and our mission. Let's be willing to put down our phones and pick up our cross, right? And along these same lines, I don't believe that Jesus would allow social media to replace face-to-face interaction. Again, I may be going against the grain here. I know that my topic is about using technology, but I think Jesus would use social media to complement personal relationships, not to replace them. Jesus was all about people. He loved people. His mission was people. And people are problematic. Relationships require hard work. They're messy. Jesus was willing to dig in and to go to work in order to help people. He went to where they were. He mingled among them. He dined with sinners. Social media tempts people, especially young people, into believing that a bunch of shallow relationships are more important than a few deep, meaningful ones. Don't get me wrong. I love my online friends. The incredible thing about Facebook is that it allows me to stay connected to people that I haven't seen in years, or people that I don't get to see on a regular basis. But my online community will never replace my real life community. I'm concerned that we're losing our sense of community. We email and we text instead of having face-to-face interaction. We zero in on our computers or our phones rather than on people, and certainly COVID hasn't helped any of this. And we get distracted, right? Jesus bled and died for the greatest social network ever, the church. The Lord's church is the greatest social network we could ever connect to. Where would we be without the church? We can have all the apps in the world. We can have thousands of friends on Facebook. We can receive hundreds of positive comments on our posts, but we need people who know our heart. Over and over again throughout the New Testament, we find one another passages. Love one another. Be devoted to one another. Bear one another's burdens. Encourage one another. Confess your sins to one another. Serve one another. One another doesn't happen online. It happens with each other. God created us for deep, meaningful relationships, not shallow ones. So we cannot allow online friendships to replace personal intimacy, right? Again, I think that needs to be said, even though we're talking about reaching people through technology. Here's the real meat, though. The real meat of what I want to get to. It is disheartening to me how many Christians are posting things on Facebook and social media that are really out of line with the character of Jesus and the mission of the church. 2 Corinthians chapter 5, verse 20 states, "Therefore we are ambassadors for Christ, as though God were making an appeal through us." An ambassador is a representative and a promoter. So we are representatives of Jesus Christ. We are called to be salt of the earth, providing flavor to a tasteless world and a light in a world shrouded in darkness. The Apostle Paul also stated that we are living letters. 2 Corinthians chapter 3, starting in verse 1. Are we beginning to commend ourselves again? Or do we need, as some, letters of commendation to you or from you? You are our letter, written in our hearts, known and read by all men, being manifested that you are a letter of Christ, cared for by us, written not with ink, but with the Spirit of the living God, not on tablets of stone, but on tablets of human hearts. So we've got to quit putting our political agenda or our opinions above the cause of Christ. We got to stop posting material that contains graphic and vulgar language. We got to quit posting immodest pictures and stop gossiping and slandering on social media. We've got to quit sharing things and commenting on things that do not glorify God. We've got to quit shedding a negative light on Jesus Christ in the church. I'll be honest with you. I've seen some things shared by Christians on Facebook, and I've thought to myself, I sure hope the people who see this don't know where that person goes to church. You think about who you represent. You think about the church you represent. You think about your influence. You think about your purpose and your mission. Let's stop using Facebook or social media as a means of promoting some personal agenda that ultimately hinders the cause of Christ. You may find this hard to believe, but you don't have to be a presence on social media. The online world will survive if you detach from it. It's also entirely possible to scroll past a political post or some other post that you don't agree with without commenting. It can be done. If we're going to be on social media, we've got to remember the purpose. We've got to remember who we are and who we belong to. There is absolutely no excuse for being un-Christ-like online. It's never Christian to be un-Christian, and that absolutely applies to the cyber world as much as it does the real world. So, we've talked about some boundaries. We've talked about some things that we need to keep in mind if we're going to be using technology, especially social media. So what are some practical ways that we as Christians can use technology to carry out the Great Commission? One thing that has been a positive or a silver lining about COVID is that many have become televangelists that never would have thought about that otherwise. There are many folks out there, many preachers who have had to adapt and adjust and have learned that being an online presence can bear much fruit. I know we at the Oldham Lane Church, where I serve, are heavily involved in social media. When COVID hit and we knew that we were going to have to close our doors for some time, we asked ourselves as a staff and as an eldership, what can we do to carry on business as usual as much as possible? How can we make things as close to the real thing, even though we're not together? And so our children's minister got together with some folks and they put a series of lessons online through Instagram and Facebook for the kids to enjoy. And the teacher sat there like looking at a camera like she was looking at the kids and shared a lesson, just like if the kids were in the classroom with her. I know that we did our sermons online, which we had been doing anyway, live streaming, Bible class, Wednesday night, Sunday night, and of course, Sunday morning. You know, our youth minister put together lessons that the kids could get online and even family devotionals that the parents could grab online and share with their children. We tried to do everything possible to make things as close to normal as possible. And I know a lot of you did some great things in sharing the gospel message and not allowing COVID to just shut everything down completely. Facebook and other venues on social media were great for continuing to get the message out, even though we couldn't meet together. Also at Oldham Lane, where I serve, we are heavily involved in World Bible School. We have several members who correspond with individuals, many of which are overseas. There are Bible lessons online that the students can complete and our members will grade. The goal of the course, of course, is to help those folks grasp the gospel, to respond to the gospel, and to live out the gospel. And it's all online. Something as simple as posting your sermons on your church's website and then having church members share that sermon. You can even share the live feed with others. That can be an effective tool in getting the message out to a wider audience. Again, live streaming church services on Facebook and YouTube or your church's website is a great way to reach people. And I think those of you who have done that have noticed it's not just your own folks who tune in. We have people tuning in from all over the world, reaching folks that we never would have reached probably before. I know people my age and older tend to gravitate to Facebook, maybe Twitter. The younger generations, not so much. They're more inclined to use Instagram or Snapchat, and TikTok is the big thing now. Christians can still be a presence on these platforms. A short video conveying a devotional thought, for instance, might be effective. You know, from time to time, I will post on Facebook something like, would anyone like to talk? Would you like to study the Bible? Want somebody to pray with you? And I'll tell folks that I'll be at Mad Coffee, which is one of our coffee shops, or Starbucks from a certain time to a certain time. Stop by. I'll buy your cup of coffee and we can talk. Very seldom do I sit there alone. I'll post that on Facebook like on a Thursday morning. And then at 3 o'clock when I go to the coffee shop, there's usually someone who will show up to pray with them, to study the Bible, or just to talk. Another thing that we've been doing is daily morning devotionals. We've been doing it for about a year now. Every morning at 7 a.m., I deliver a short 15-minute devotional using Facebook Live. It's been really neat to see the response. People making comments in real time and even private messaging me with questions. Some will even share the thought for the day with other people. And so it's reaching more than just our folks. It was started as a way to stay connected during COVID, but it's had a wider platform. There are many ways to use technology for the purpose of sharing God's word. We do a weekly television program and a podcast. But there's radio, there's, again, social media, many other platforms that allow even the average person who's not so technologically savvy to reach hundreds, if not thousands or millions. But I would say this, whatever platform you use, make it about Jesus and make it about the gospel. Because I think all too often we can use these platforms in ways that are un-Christ-like. With Facebook, like we said a moment ago, we, too often share false information, which is gossip, by the way, ranting about politics or condemning others who don't agree with them. In all of our passion for the peripheral, we tend to neglect the primary. Where's the passion for Christ and reaching the lost? Shouldn't that be paramount? We have this tremendous platform that provides us with an incredible opportunity to reach massive amounts of people, and we're going to use it to stir dissension or to beat people up? I think one of the big keys when it comes to discipleship is just don't be a jerk. You know, if we'll remember to love the Lord our God with all of our heart, soul, mind, and strength, and to love our neighbor as ourselves, that's the essence of Christianity. And how we present ourselves online, how we present ourselves through technology can make a huge, huge difference. There are so many people out there in the world that will never hear my sermon on a Sunday morning. They may see you, and that may be the only Bible they ever read. Better yet, they may get online and see something you shared that was positive, encouraging, that was the gospel message, and they say, wow, I'd like to know more about that. You think about the potential reach that we have when we share righteous things, when we post godly things, when we present ourselves as holy. Here's what I would hope for all Christians everywhere. I would hope that you would be a presence online, on social media. I'm not suggesting that we should just stay away and avoid it at all costs. I would hope that every Christian who does participate, though, on Facebook or other social media sites would view it as a venue to glorify God, to display the character of Jesus Christ, and to promote the gospel. You know, Facebook doesn't need any more trolls. It doesn't need any more people displaying outrage, furthering some political agenda or debating the masses. That's well-covered ground. But what it does need are Christians shining God's light, because that's what's needed everywhere. The cyber world and the real world. All Christians should be keenly aware of who they are and who they represent. You're not just shining your light in your community, you're shining it online as well. So be a presence on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, wherever. Share your photos, your stories, your humor, as long as it's in good taste, but also share your faith. Show others how different your life is because Christ is in it. And please, please, please avoid posting things that may make you feel good, because maybe you can stick your chest out and say, I'm right, even though it diminishes your influence. This isn't about you. This is about the Father. This is about Jesus. And this is about being like Christ so that I can make my Father proud. As children of the King, let's redeem the screen. Thank you so much. I love you.
BibleTalk.tv is a Bible teaching website that provides those who want to know more about the Bible a well-organized and simple-to-follow method of general Bible study. For those who want to learn, Bible Talk provides over 50 different series on topics ranging from Old and New Testament books to studies on marriage and family, as well as church growth material. In addition to these, there are over 200 sermons on various Bible topics. This material is arranged into 10 individual progressive study plans geared for beginners to advanced study. All of this and more free to view with no ads or requests for personal information or money. Bible Talk also contains special series designed for small groups that include discussion questions, over 40 books, ebooks, as well as short Devo messages for personal spiritual growth and encouragement, all easy to navigate and free to share with just a click of a mouse and no cost to download, copy, print, and distribute to others. Your personal ministry resources all in one place. For those teaching others, Bible Talk series for Bible books or topics each include a PowerPoint file, teacher guide, student notes file, and complete transcript file for each lesson. This equips you to teach the class yourself, using the material to create teaching goals, class outlines, and discussion questions. All of this free to download, copy, and use without fees or licensing. BibleTalk.tv provides Bible teaching materials to help believers and non-believers at every stage of their faith walk. Series that are designed for beginners as well as those mature Christians who simply want to know the Bible better. all on a site that is easy to use, provides all of its resources for free, and has apps for most devices at no charge in the App Store. BibleTalk.tv. Learn, share, teach, grow.